Hello, everybody. This is Gerald Salenti, and it's Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. And we have with us Judge Andrew Napolitano, a man of men, somebody that they don't like sometimes because he speaks the truth about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, things that are being stolen from us right in front of our eyes. So thanks, Judge, for being here again today.
A pleasure, my dear friend.
And, talking about being stolen in front of our eyes, you have an article coming out tomorrow, A Switch in Time. And it's about Tulsi Gabbard and what she is now going to be the director of national intelligence under Trump, but she got to get the approval. So she was at the House of Representatives, and it seems like Tulsi's doing a tango, swinging around to the other side, doing a 180 from things that she said when she was in the House of Representatives.
Well, when she was in the House of Representatives, she was a fierce defender of the Fourth Amendment, an opponent of the deep state, which, of course, she's about to be nominated to become the head of, but particularly an opponent of warrantless spying on Americans, which, of course, the federal government now practices. She voted against the extension of Section 702. I can get into the history, but basically 702 is the same authority that the Obama administration used to spy on Mr. Donald Trump and the FBI used to spy on President Donald Trump when he was in the White House during his first term. This is the authority which, under its current interpretation, permits spying on all Americans without warrants, without probable cause, without articulable suspicion, without even identifying them. When it became apparent that she was Trump's nominee to head the entire intelligence community, the DNI is in charge of all known 16 intelligence communities in the federal government, including those that are in the military. She did a 180 flip on Section 702, and in order to garner support from members of the Intelligence Committee, all of whom are in lockstep with the deep state. There are no progressives or libertarians on that committee. They're all big government, spy on everybody types. She's now in favor of Section 702. It's beyond me how a human being whose career has been devoted to opposing something suddenly favors it. And it personally offended me. It reminds me of Shakespeare's line, "Lilies that fester smell far worse than weeds. There is no enemy like a former friend." Well, I once embraced this woman. Now I do embrace her on some issues. The Wall Street Journal, for example, criticizes her for failing to embrace 702 sooner. They don't believe the flip-flop. They criticize her for arguing that Bashar al-Assad did not use chemical weapons on his own people. We know that, in fact, he didn't. They criticized her for arguing that the war in Ukraine started when the United States conducted a coup over Viktor Yanukovych in 2014, which we all know it did.
Yep.
So a lot of this is connected to other issues, but in the mix is this profound 702, because if she is opposed to 702 and puts that opposition into play, the intelligence community will have to follow the law for the first time since the presidency of Ronald Reagan. And they will be screaming bloody murder that they have to follow the law. What do they do to follow the law? They establish probable cause, they go to a judge, and they get a search warrant. But a generation of members of the intelligence community has come of age told, just hack the computer, spy on everybody all the time. Don't worry about the law or the Constitution. That's where we are today. I was overjoyed at her nomination. I'm now disgusted by it.
As I said in your introduction, there's nobody that knows the facts like you do. you put the facts out there that nobody talks about as a judge and an expert in the Constitution. And you're right in this article. After the Revolutionary War was won and the Constitution was ratified, the Bill of Rights was ratified. The Fourth Amendment in the Bill of Rights protects all, quote, people from unreasonable searches and seizures by the government, both law enforcement and spies. The courts have interpreted unreasonable to mean without a search warrant.
Nevertheless, because of the revelations of Edward Snowden, which are now 10 years ago, and the feigned outrage by Congress, instead of defunding all the spying, and the revelations were that every keystroke on every mobile device, laptop, and desktop were being captured by the federal government without warrants. What did Congress do instead of defunding it? Found a way to make it lawful, unconstitutional, but lawful. Oh, we have to spy on foreigners. Okay, what about the foreigners that talk to Americans? Well, that opens up spying on the Americans. What about the people the Americans talk to? Well, that lets us spy on them out to the sixth generation. So in 2021, according to the FBI, the intelligence community spied on 3.4 million Americans without a search warrant, because 3.4 million Americans spoke to a foreign person, like a hotel reservation clerk in Florence, or my aunt in Naples, or a bookseller in London. If I make any of those phone calls or communicate with any of them by text or email, then they can surveil everything that I do.
Oh, my God.
Out to the sixth generation, meaning if I talk to you about having dinner, not about my conversations with people overseas, they can surveil everything you do: telephone, text, email.
Oh.
And if you talk to an IT person to come into your business to fix a problem, they can surveil everything the IT person talks to. And if he talks to his girlfriend instead of his wife, this is all hypothetical, they can talk to everybody that the girlfriend or the wife talks to. Do the math. 3.4 million Americans to the sixth power. You'll reach 330 million Americans before you finish the project. That's where we are today. That's what was used to spy on Trump. That's what she was opposed to until the weekend, when that's what she said she's in favor of. So this woman apparently is more interested in her job than she is in her principles.
Well, she's a politician. They're all interested. That's what they're interested in. You know, I met her, by the way, when I was a speaker at the Rage Against the War Machine rally in D.C. And she was nice, but she had an attitude. I mean, Kucinich was there, you know, a whole bunch of, but she had, you know, this thing about her, you know, we didn't hit it off very well. And what she also has done too, you mentioned that she's against the Ukraine war. She's totally pro-genocide, Zionist for the Israel.
Unfortunately, everybody Trump has appointed in his national security team is an arch-Zionist.
You know, going back to by the way, what you're talking about, all these spy agencies, what have they accomplished?
That is a great question, Gerald.
Because what have they accomplished?
By spying on everyone, they get information overload. If they had accessed the spying on this maniac that killed people on New Year's Day on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, they could have stopped it. But they didn't access everything they had from him until after he committed his murders. Because they gather so much information, not only is it unconstitutional, not only does it violate our natural right to privacy, it doesn't work. It's too much data for them to go through in an effective way in real time.
Again, CIA, NSA, Homeland Security. Isn't that a joke?
Yes. George W. Bush.
Security.
Homeland Security has 200,000 federal cops. They're everywhere, and they're plain clothed so you don't even know who they are. Where in the Constitution is a federal police force authorized? Where in the Constitution is the FBI authorized? Where in the Constitution is the NSA, the 60,000 person strong domestic spying apparatus, authorized? Answer: nowhere, nowhere, and nowhere.
And again, what have they accomplished? What have they accomplished? Name me the big things that they've done in our lifetime. They haven't done anything.
Correct.
They're just, again, they're bureaucrats with bad attitudes. That's all they are. And again, you know, the cover of the magazine this week is about the terrible fires over there in California.
Right.
And it says, you know, trillions for fighter jets to kill millions, pennies for fighting planes to save millions. It shows you the incompetence of the clowns, the jerks, the arrogant little morons, and the imbecilic bureaucrats that we got to pay so much of our money taxes. Oh, when they get their, you know, retirement, oh, they have the time of their life. All the money they steal from us. Homeland Security, NSA, FBI, CIA. How about FUCKYOU? Because that's all they are with those initials.
415 is fine.
You rather do 415?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Gerald. Someone just stuck their head in my office. Go ahead, please.
That's right. I was just saying, you know, how disgusting all this is, that they haven't accomplished anything.
Nobody really berates them for that. And I'll tell you why. The intelligence community is insidious. Justice Scalia told me he was convinced that the NSA was spying on the court. We know that when the NSA wants more money or spying authority, they don't ask for it in public. They ask for it in secret. Another person who flipped on all of this is Mike Johnson. He's the Christian nationalist who's the Speaker of the House of Representatives and second in line to the presidency. Was a fierce opponent of 702 when he was a congressman from Louisiana. As Speaker of the House, after a 2-hour meeting in secret in his office with members of the intelligence community, pronounced he's in favor of it. The intelligence community does the same thing. They meet in secret with members of Congress, swear them to secrecy, tell them God only knows what. The meeting is over, and the members of Congress give the intelligence community whatever they want. Do you remember about a month ago, you and I talked about this, I wrote about it, the drones over New Jersey and New York? Well, the intelligence community had a secret meeting with the House Intelligence Committee. Did anybody in the House Intelligence Committee go to the floor of the House and reveal what happened in that committee? No, they are terrified and totally beholden to the intelligence community. Why? And I said to Justice Scalia, how do they get away with this? He said, they have dirt on everybody in Congress.
Yep.
And they will subtly threaten to use that dirt in a way to impair the member of Congress's peace of mind or career if they don't vote the way the intelligence community wants. This has become a government within a government. Some of this is very dangerous because the CIA kills people. I don't know that the NSA kills people, but the CIA does. So the deep state is more horrific, more dangerous, and more powerful than we have ever imagined it to be.
You know, you call it an intelligence. That's an oxymoron. There's nothing intelligent about an intelligence committee. You know, and Judge, I was a little positive on what's going on in Israel with Trump administration apparently forcing Netanyahu finally into a ceasefire. And again, this is a ceasefire that they've rejected a number of times. And
well, they did reject it a number of times. I was critical of Trump for appointing a billionaire real estate developer, Steve Witkoff, as his Middle East envoy, but Mr. Witkoff has proven me wrong and knows how to negotiate. He was in Doha, where the negotiations are going on. These are the strangest negotiations in the world, Gerald, because if you say something that upsets the Israelis at these negotiations, they kill you. They kill you. They've assassinated 2 of the negotiators. Well, whoever's negotiating now is still alive. Mr. Witkoff was there in Doha, called up Prime Minister Netanyahu on Saturday and said to his staff, flying to Tel Aviv, I need to meet with them right away. And they said, oh, sorry. The Prime Minister, who's not an observant Jew, except when he needs to be, observes the Sabbath and he can't meet with them. And Mr. Witkoff said, I'm coming and you better meet with me. Now, we don't know what he said when he arrived. We know that Netanyahu met with him, and we know that after a few hours, Netanyahu reluctantly agreed to this deal. He probably said, hey, buddy, Donald Trump is no Joe Biden. Don't agree to this deal, and we'll close off that spigot. Now, the deal allows for the release of 33 Israeli hostages and 1,200 Palestinian hostages and calls for a ceasefire. There are other aspects of the deal that have not yet been revealed. They have not yet been reduced to writing. You know, when you reduce these things to writing, you got to reduce it to writing in several different languages. And you got to make sure that the translation from Hebrew to Arabic, from Arabic to Hebrew, from Hebrew to English, from English to Arabic, that they all say the same thing. This is almost ridiculous. It's like Neapolitans and Sicilians talking to each other. The dialects are so different. You need somebody from Rome to translate. Well, so it's taking a little while. I shouldn't laugh because people are dying. It's taking a little while for this thing to be reduced to writing in the various formats that everybody and their linguists can agree to. That's what we're waiting for now. But bottom line is, if I am right, if an agreement is announced in the next 48 hours, Joe Biden will take credit for it. He had nothing to do with it. Donald Trump, who isn't even the president of the United States yet, with a couple of phone calls, made this happen. We'll see if I'm right.
You know, the other thing, the last 3 days, they've killed about 48 Palestinians. Just in the last 2 days. They keep bombing and slaughtering them as this so-called peace talk is going underway. Now, I want to read something to you. As trend forecasters, what we do is we travel the world. So, of course, we go to Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, Jerusalem Post, Times of Israel. But we also go to IRNA, ISNA, Press TV, Tehran Times. The Iranians, and we go to the Arab News. We want to hear what everybody has to say. This is from Press TV, the Iranian outlet. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has promised to allow the Israeli regime's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, whose real name is Milikowski, by the way, to resume the campaign of genocide in the besieged Gaza Strip after signing a potential ceasefire deal with Hamas, according to Israeli media. Ynet News, citing a source familiar with the matter, reported on Tuesday that Trump has promised Netanyahu that if he agrees to the ceasefire and the withdrawal of Israeli military forces from Gaza, he will support Tel Aviv retroactively if it decides to resume the war and violate the truce. In a post on X, Palestinian journalist Mohammed Shahada also noted that in addition, Trump had promised Netanyahu to remove the sanctions on the controversial spy war company NSO Group, which has sold its Pegasus spyware, one of the world's most notorious hacking tools, to several countries. Trump's, quote, gift back also allows Israeli regime to continue with its land grab in the occupied West Bank, he added.
I am very familiar with, I have written about several times, you and I have discussed this software. This is called ZeroClick. This is profoundly unconstitutional. It's one of the good things Joe Biden did was to prohibit the government from using it. The FBI bought this stuff. Biden found out about it. He ordered them to stop using it. They removed it. You can't make this up. It sounds like The Sopranos. They stored it in a warehouse in New Jersey. But this is no joke. ZeroClick allows the operator of it to enter your computer without tricking you into clicking onto a link. It's the most sophisticated computer hacking tool in the world, developed and patented by the Israelis. They can't sell it in the United States. If Trump permits this to be sold, it's a grave, grave violation of the civil liberties of all Americans. It's also a grave violation of his own civil liberties. He'd have to be out of his mind. It lets the Mossad listen in on everything that Mike Waltz and Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth and that crowd around, Sebastian Gorka and that crowd around him are communicating. I once asked Ray McGovern if the CIA spies on the White House, and he had a very sort of cat-like smile on his face, and he said, yes. And then I said, does the Mossad spy on the White House? And he said, yes, and they do a better job. And then he said, if I had answered either of these questions yes while I was still employed, I'd be on the unemployment line the next day.
Yeah.
So Trump has just made, if this is true, if this Pegasus has several trade names, if this Pegasus, if the federal government's allowed to use this Pegasus, or if the Israelis can sell Pegasus to anybody in the U.S., it's devastating to our privacy. Devastating. This is the deep state's dream.
And again, on the other part of it, I think what's going to happen here is they're going to have a deal. They'll release the hostages, and then they're going to make up something else of why they re-attacked them. And they said, as this guy said, and he's not condemning them for stealing more land.
Can you send me that piece? I have to write about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very, very, very unsettling.
Yep.
Here I am happy over a ceasefire and the release of hostages, and this deal stinks. And I wonder Netanyahu went for it because of all these side deals. I can't imagine.
Exactly.
I can't imagine that the NSO, that's the name of the company that makes Pegasus, or the retroactive support should they reopen the war, are part of the deal. This will also keep Smotrich and Ben-Gvir in the government, because if they leave the government, which they both threatened to do, Netanyahu loses his majority in the Knesset, and during his bribery trial will have to stand for re-election.
Yeah. Well, Judge, thanks for being on, and thank you for all that you do. And everyone, if you want to know what in the world is going on that you're not hearing anywhere else, you want to go to Judging Freedom. The guests that he has on, just talking about McGovern and others, they're the truth tellers, and they've been on the other side. That's why they know the deal.
Yes. Phil Giraldi is on with me this afternoon, and Ray McGovern tomorrow.
Yeah, two CIA guys.
Right? And Douglas McGregor. I'm sorry, Ray McGovern on Friday. Colonel McGregor tomorrow. Giraldi today.
Yeah. So go to Judging Freedom, because the judge is doing everything he can to bring life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness back to the United States, which they keep stealing from us. Thanks, Judge. See you next week.
All the best, my friend.
All right.